All right. Happy Monday night. Hope you guys are doing well. Hopefully you had a good weekend. What a Super Bowl. I'm not a football guy, but I did go check out the Super Bowl. Hopefully, your team that you wanted to win won. Um, Eagles fans. I did go to Philly. Actually, I guess it's almost 3 years ago now. Went up there and saw a Cowboys and Phillies game. And I can tell you, I have been to Cowboy Stadium. I've been to the Mavs. I've been to every sporting event we have here in Dallas, Rangers, all of them. People here in Dallas are loud and proud of their, whatever sport they're behind, whether that's soccer, football, baseball, hockey. We got the Stars. It doesn't matter. People here have a lot of pride in sports. But let me tell you, up there in Philly, that is the loudest stadium I have ever been in my life. Eagles fans are on another level. Kudos to you guys. Happy for y'all. If you are an Eagles fan, excited to see them win another Super Bowl. The refs really didn't, or they weren't able to stop them like a lot of people thought they were going to be. Interesting, outcome of the Buffalo Bills and the Chiefs. Anyway, hopefully, again, you guys were safe, enjoyed the Super Bowl, and again, that maybe you made some money. I did not, bet on any of the squares. I should have. Probably would have made out like a bandit. Anyway, this is what we do on Monday nights. We do Q&A, so kind of actually AMA, really. Talk about estate planning, mitigating taxes, setting yourself up for success on the other side of appreciation and liquidity event in digital assets. So strap in if you have any investments in Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, XRP, XLM, HBAR, Cardano with the ETF today. Lots of different things happening in the space. Excited to run all that down tonight. So get your questions in over here on TikTok, here on YouTube and X, and we'll go ahead and hop into it. First to bat here, we've got Daniel Crockett. It's a nice name. He says, thanks for all that you do. Can you explain how tokenization on the XRPL has an impact on the price of XRP? If 1 trillion gets tokenized, what would that do to the price and why? It would have zero impact. That's not what you thought I would say. So transaction volume is actually what's going to drive price for XRP. So you could tokenize all the stuff that you want, but if nobody's moving that back and forth or trading those assets back and forth, it really means nothing for the XRPL. Cool, there's money on it, there's value on it, but XRP, the token, is used to move value from one party to another. It's a neutral bridge currency. It's a DEX, which is a decentralized exchange for swapping what people want for one another on the network. Just like me sending an email to you, that data packet is sent from one place to another. If you're moving value on the XRPL, it's likely going to be routed through XRP if that is the most liquid asset and easiest means to do so. Or either counterparty wants something opposite of what the other person's transacting. So the tokenization of $1 trillion really doesn't do much unless that $1 trillion is being transacted on a regular basis. So the application for SWIFT is a big one. The application for any of these markets where things are being transacted, that matters. If it was $1 trillion in real estate and nobody's buying and selling the real estate that's been tokenized, it would have zero impact on price. So like SWIFT moves, they settle between counterparties $5 trillion a day in value. That would have a significant impact on price for XRP if it were to be placed on the XRPL, and CBDCs or private stable coins or whatever dollar denominated or currency denominated assets were issued on there and then swapped, settled back and forth between those counterparties. That would have a huge impact on XRP's price. But just the tokenization of financial products, that itself does not drive the value. It is actually the transactions between counterparties trading those assets is what's going to drive a lot of the price appreciation that people are hopeful for. We've got Atlantic Living. Good to see you. They say, can you explain what the ISM is and why that's important to be well over 50 in order to do for this alt season to commence? Also, is Trump intentionally weakening the dollar in order to build for bull to thrive? I'm not sure what ISM is. The abbreviation, I need a little more clarity on that. That could be a couple different things. Index, yeah, I don't know. I'm sure you probably thought I would just snap that right up. I know a lot of things, but I don't know everything, and some abbreviations are going to catch me off guard. Bitcoin dominance is going to have to fall. I don't know if that's what it's referring to or not, or what the index is that you're looking at. You know, for alt season to commence, you're going to need a rotation from Bitcoin to the altcoins. I think that could happen through the ETFs. You've seen a bunch of ETFs, almost 60 ETFs filed this year for alternative assets aside from Bitcoin or Ethereum, which were passed last year. So that includes Solana, Doge, Cardano, XRP, HBAR, Litecoin. I don't know that I've seen an XLM ETF, but I've seen all the other ones. So, you know, again, close to 60 ETFs. I think 17 of those are for XRP in particular. And I think you get 5 or 6 for Hashgraph, HBAR, and then the rest are kind of, you know, hit or miss here and there. So anyway, I think that you're going to see those assets most affected by the rotation from Bitcoin when people liquidate that position because of Tether's instability, when stablecoin regs come along, or because of the 10-year yield in Japan and the destabilization of the treasury market when the reverse carry trade unwinds and everything transpires like we've been talking about for almost a year now. And then your next question here. So I'm waiting. So Litecoin just moved. I don't know if y'all saw that or not. That tends to be an indication that alt season's here. What do we got for Litecoin here? Litecoin. It's at 122 on the 5-day. So you're starting to see the uptrend here in Litecoin. It tends to be the first mover in alt season. If it breaks above, where are we here, 136 in the next 24 hours and goes off to the races, that's like the starting whistle or the starting shot for alt season traditionally. And with that, you know, the ETF that was filed just the other day for that, you know, that could be the catalyst or whatever you want to call it. I don't know, man. I just know that these charts move in a specific pattern and have for the last, you know, 15 years. And that tends to be the first one out of the gate almost every single time. You've also got Ethereum Classic and a few others that tend to follow along pretty closely with Litecoin. And these are just cycles. You know, I do think this time is different. I think there's ETFs. I think there's other constraints outside the scope of what has been here in the past, but that doesn't mean that some of the indicators from previous cycles won't transpire as this, you know, change toward utility-driven assets does take place in this go-round. So keep an eye on that. You've asked also, is Trump intentionally weakening the dollar in order to build for bull to thrive? Not sure what bull is. I think you maybe mistyped that there. Let's look at the DXY. So for those that, you know, don't know, the Dixie or the DXY is the dollar index, and it shows its relative strength to other currencies. Currently, we have seen a big fall in the dollar. Well, not a big fall, really, like 1% here, less than 1%, as it fell from, you know, close to 110, and we dropped back down to 107 and a half, and it's now back at 108 and a half. You know, over the long term here, I do think that it has topped for this portion of the cycle, and you will see a big move to the downside in the short term. That's my guess in the dollar in comparison to other currencies. And that's kind of everybody thinks that at this point. The dollar is no longer going to be the reserve currency. People are speculating whether it's going to be Russia or China or who's going to take that spot. I would prefer a neutral bridge currency and just sovereign currencies globally, and whoever, a level playing field is what people talk about. I think that that's probably the best outcome that we can hope for, and not one other counterparty that puts us at a disadvantage here in the U.S. We've had a very large blessing the majority of my life, and pretty much everybody else's that's watching, unless you're born previous to 1944 and Bretton Woods. You've enjoyed a very high privilege of the U.S. dollar being the reserve currency globally, and then being able to print it in perpetuity, however much we wanted, since 1971. So that we're coming to the end of that road, and I do think there is going to be a reckoning. But I do think that if we're the ones that make that change and we can leap over here to these digital currencies and dollar-denominated assets for stable coins, private stable coins, and not a CBDC, I think that there's going to be significant upside for the U.S. in that transition, especially if they were to, use XRP as a reserve asset. Maybe they take it from Ripple. So the Trump intentionally weakening the dollar, I don't think he's intentionally doing it, but I do think we are going to see a weakening in the dollar in the short term here. We've got David J. He says, Jake, please update us on DAG. When will Anchorage custody it? Where do you see DAG into 2025? How does it fit in with XRP, HBAR, etc.? Thank you. So DAG is very interesting. So they have a lot of government contracts. Network is super secure. I don't know when Anchorage will custody it. I don't know when Coinbase is going to list it. It's not anything that's on the immediate roadmap for either one, in my opinion. We've brought it to Coinbase's attention. We do have custody that we can provide clients. The FBO accounts don't really exist at Coinbase, but we can do it in a fund structure. So if people wanted to custody their DAG over there, if they were to list it and provide custodial services for it, we could do that. But I don't think it's going to be here in 2025. At least, again, it's not on the roadmap. Could be Q4 or something. Could come out of the woodwork. Price appreciation. I mean, DAG's 5 cents. You could accumulate a lot of it. You could stake it, earn rewards with it. I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's going to be around. Price appreciation, sure, could see $1, this go. So at 20x from current price, I think that's fairly reasonable. You haven't seen the upward momentum on that like you have some other tokens, and I do think it'll participate in this cycle. I do think it'll be a utility-driven network. I think that again, the adoption will be primarily in government applications, but yeah, I think it'll be around and it'll definitely be used, and there is definitely an opportunity there. Not financial advice, only for entertainment and educational purposes only. Jump over here to TikTok real quick. He just likes hearing himself. Glock 210. I'm sorry I don't look at this screen as much, brother. I got other people over here paying for my time on YouTube. If you're looking to do business with me or my team, there's a link in the bio, very easy to get to, and pretty simple to put in a request or speak with anybody, including myself, if you do want some of our time. It is not free. We do have paid consults. So happy to work with you. If you just want to email us questions, we can answer those. If it takes our time and we do set up a time to speak with you, either via Zoom or in person, it does cost money, but we answer questions for free. So if you want to email info@digitalfamilyoffice.io, happy to run whatever questions you have down there. Two officials says, I don't think XRP will really pump until regulations are live. Your thoughts? There are outside catalysts that do not require regulations for XRP to move. So XRP already has a designation as a global bridge currency. You can Google it, literally Google, type in global bridge currency, and XRP will come up. It also has a a ruling from the judge here in the U.S. is not a security in and of itself or trading on the secondary market. And institutions should be able to use it and hold it on their balance sheet now that SOB 121 has been removed. So we know Bank of America used it on the back end for years. It only takes two counterparties using it before the rest of them will adopt it. And once you start settling transactions over the network, it snowballs very quickly, irrespective of regulations. Banks do, to your point, though, are very hesitant to use it until there's clear rules of the road in place. So I think it'll be a fuzzy line on the price appreciation. I think you can see the ETF approval prior to the case settling. And in that, you could see a lot of liquidity driven into XRP and some utility of the token, and then a settlement of the case on the other side of that. So does that require stablecoin regulation and designation as a global bridge currency or a bridge currency inside that regulation from Congress? Quite possible. I think as the reverse carry trade unwinds and treasuries are unloaded onto the market, that'll be the way that they stabilize the debt market here in the U.S. And that's my thoughts on it. I think it could definitely happen before, but I don't think it'll be very, very long before. Solana over 400 this year? Nah, I don't think so. I think Solana's played out. This is just my opinion. I'm just a guy. There was a gentleman that I know that bought Solana at like $9 at the bottom of the FTX deal after it crashed back down, and he piled in heavy. He sold off, what did he tell me, 30% of his bag at $35, another 35% of his bag at $100, and then let the rest ride. And I think Mando has done very well for himself with that play on Solana over the last couple years. I wish I had listened to him on that play. He's a sharp guy. So anyway, Solana, I think the meme coins and a lot of the craze there is going to die off. I don't know that it has much more left in it this cycle, but I could be wrong. There's a lot of people that want to see it go higher. Thank you, Rick and Heidi, for the super chat. They say, you've mentioned that some of your clients have Iraqi dinar. They sure do. When the revaluation occurs, would you have them use a brick and mortar exchange, which charges 5%, or go to their local redeemer bank? I'm going to be honest with you, Rick and Heidi. I think they're going to issue a completely separate currency, and there'll be an exchange rate for the old one to the new one. I don't think that people are going to get the upside on the existing currency that a lot of people are hopeful for. I hope I'm wrong. I hope you make hundreds of millions of dollars and I miss out on a fantastic opportunity. Just looking at history of how things have transpired and the way things are traditionally done in a revaluation, they do tend to issue new currency, and there's an exchange rate between the old currency and the new currency. And it's not that the new currency is just automatically, worth more. I know that's been sold to everybody, and that I am hopeful that, because I have clients that have pallets of it, like a lot of it. You're not going to be able to get around the exchange, right? If you want to swap it back into dollars, you're going to have to pay that. If you want to swap it for gold, that would be another option. I think that there's going to be a pretty large market for the swap of the Iraqi dinar into gold. That may be a way that you can, reduce that 5% and get it into something that does hold its value over the long term outside the US dollar. That's probably what I would do in that position. But, to each their own. That's just my 2 cents on it. Again, I'm just a guy. These are my opinions, not gospel. And again, I was wrong about BTC. I thought, top's going to be around 75K, and it went way past that. And people made a bunch of money. And I'm happy for those people. Because again, a lot of my clients hold that. So, I have biases and I talk about things, and sometimes I'm wrong. And oftentimes I hope I'm wrong, because then that means other people make money. This person has asked, sorry, but seriously, there are still people on the dinar tail. Yeah, there's a ton of people on the dinar thing, man. And the Zim and the Dong. A bunch of people that hold those currencies and they feel that they're going to get revalued at a significantly higher rate. And as far as the exchange rate goes, and they're playing that at currency exchange rate and hoping for a revaluation. Again, I hope people make a bunch of money. But just looking at history and tradition, they tend to issue a new currency, and there's an exchange rate between the old currency and the new currency, and you don't get the upside that a lot of people are hoping for. We have Jay, just Jay. Thank you for the $5, brother. He says, hey, Jake, thanks for your efforts. Appreciate you. Do you know anything about the XRP Army NFTs that were issued to holders, and can we use them for anything? I don't know. I know that Uphold gave some people some NFTs for holding XRP on their exchange at a certain date. Maybe there's a limited number of those. It might be worth something someday. It's like Pokemon cards, man. Like, it comes in waves. I think that there'll be another craze for NFTs at some point in the future, especially if they're a limited edition or people have lost them, or there's anything that's rare circles back around, and there's a bubble and it pops and people buy a bunch at the top and think it's going to keep going higher. It's just good to know when to get off the train on that stuff. I sold all my Pokemon cards. I held them for 20 years and sold them all in 2020 and bought more XRP with it. Right. I think I probably got my money back on the amount of money that I spent on Pokemon cards. I think I sold them for like $4,000 all in, and that's when, Beckett and PSG, is that the other grader? I think it's PSG. Anyway, both of those were like booked out a year and a half because of the card craze and how many people were submitting cards for grading. So I just sold them off and had another guy send them in, and he waited to get them back. I don't know what he sold them for. But stuff like that, there's probably going to be some circumstance. Especially, here's the other thing. If people make a bunch of money on XRP, like, okay, as an example, the guy that bought Beeple's Everydays, okay, he bought it for $69 million. That guy he became a billionaire off ETH. So people that make a bunch of money in XRP might spend money on some silly stuff, just because it's meaningful for them. So it may seem silly to other people, but it might mean a lot to them. And so if you just hold on to that NFT, it could definitely be worth something someday, but I don't know that there's any utility for it at the current time. Let's see here. We've got a couple more super chats. We got Trust, 1 LLC investments, cash, 2 LLC home, business, 3 business. I think you're like laying this out. So yeah, trust and LLC for investments in cash. Sure. I wouldn't set up a LLC for your house. It's hard to rent a home to yourself. You want to homestead it and get the benefit for the taxes on it. I would move your home or the homes that you use, either vacation homes or your primary residence, into a living trust. If you want to, protect it from probate and creditors, and pass it on to your children or beneficiaries with neither one of those issues, or the estate tax. That would be my recommendation for any homes or vehicles or family heirlooms or gold and silver. Would be a living trust. And then, yeah, you would definitely want your business in a corporation or an LLC. Just depends on, you might want a C Corp, you might want an S Corp, you might want an LLC. Found out the other day that Canada does not recognize LLCs. They just decided that that's not a thing for them. So there's no pass-through taxation. So you get taxed here at the corporate level and then taxed again in Canada, which is no bueno. But you can set up a C Corp here in the US and use that, and you're only taxed 20% because they do recognize the C Corp. So might be something we're looking to provide for our clients in the near future. If you're Canadian and you're looking to work with Digital Wealth Partners, which is the RIA, to be able to manage your assets, happy to have that conversation and establish that C Corp for you here in the US. Disco R1 says, purchased the LLC yesterday. Very good. Appreciate you, brother. He says, thank you. My research has told me that I may have to file a foreign LLC here in Massachusetts as well. Can you explain? So yeah, depending on what state, you're still going to have to register or file the LLC with that state. So there's a few: Colorado, Massachusetts, California, and a few others, and we do that for you. We'll file with that counterparty, so it's not a big deal. If you're interested in setting up an LLC for your digital assets and your investment, you can use the code 50OFF50 OFFDAG, like Digital Ascension Group LLC. They get you 50% off the $3,000 we normally charge to set up an LLC. We do it for $1,500. You get the EIN, articles of organization, the registered agent, certificate of good standing, BOIR if you need it, SOP on how to move your assets in there, SOP on how to set up a bank account for this entity, and then the operating agreement, which is anywhere between $1,800 and $2,500 if you go get an attorney to just draft that piece specific for an investment company holding digital assets. So do it everything end to end, manage it every year for you, $1,500 all in. So it's 50OFF50 OFFDAG LLC. Get you that at checkout. Ragger Balls. He says XRP is a scam. Tell me why. Tell me why you think so. I would love to go back and forth if you would like to have the conversation here. This person's asked, why an LLC if they are fiscally transparent and you don't have any liability? So in Wyoming, we normally do in Wyoming. The reason is you get three things there in Wyoming. You get attorney-client privilege, so you get the anonymity, which I don't discuss enough on here. It's a huge benefit as far as corporate transparency goes. You would not be listed on the corporation publicly for people to be able to discern who's involved with it. If it is in Wyoming, Delaware, South Dakota, or Nevada, are the 4 states. And then aside from that, you get no state tax there in Wyoming. Depending on what state you are, there may be reciprocity, there might not be. And again, you know, it can be a benefit. And then also the laws there in Wyoming are the best for digital assets in particular. Yeah, you still need to declare taxes. And if it's a, you know, I'm drawing a blank. If you don't have any income or expenses, then it'll be a disregarded entity. You don't really have to file the taxes, but you're still going to have to declare taxes irrespective of any of that. The main benefit that you're going to get from the LLC that you're not going to have in your personal name is you get the full breadth of the tax code to be able to offset those taxes. So, you know, if you wanted to buy a vehicle, anything over 6,000 pounds qualifies as heavy equipment here in the U.S. according to Trump, under Section 179 of the tax code. If you're using that to travel to look at investments or meet with people or have conversations or learn more about the type of investments you're making inside that LLC through your holding company, then you'd be able to write that vehicle off and accelerate the depreciation. Hopefully we get back to 100% this year. So you want to buy a G-Wagon, then, you know, it's over 6,000 pounds, it's $200,000. You put $40,000 down, you can write off the full $200,000, hopefully here this year in 2025. So that's $160,000 that you can write off your income that you didn't have to spend, right? Same thing for key employee insurance. If you want to move, you know, your assets into an insurance policy, we help our clients set up PPLI or private placement life insurance, where their assets can grow tax-free inside that policy. In perpetuity until their death. Then it passes back to the trust or whoever the beneficiary is they establish on that policy. Your company that you set up for your digital assets wouldn't be able to operate without you. You are the one that is the manager and driving those investments and making those decisions. So therefore, there is an insurable interest, and you could set up that insurance policy and be able to write that off. So if you want to take profits, but you want to fund that insurance policy, you know, with the assets in kind, then you'd be able to offset that and wipe out your tax liability. It's a fantastic way to do it. The other benefit that you get is this year is going to be probably the highest gift tax threshold to move assets out of your taxable estate over your lifetime. You have close to $14 million that you can gift this year, $3.99 million per person. So between you and your spouse, almost $28 million that you can gift tax-free out of your taxable estate this year. It's likely going to drop back down to $7.5 million next year, and I don't know that it'll ever be this high again. So let's say you did want to gift, a large portion of those assets out of your taxable estate into a trust and move them, along in that manner. It may or may not make sense. You are going to lock in the basis, and your children are going to be saddled with potential tax implications, which may or may not be a good thing. I want my child to hold on to the assets and be incentivized not to sell them. So I want him to be saddled with a bunch of taxes if he chooses that direction, to discourage him from doing so. So gifting that this year, if it's in the LLC, you get a huge benefit. You can gift small portions of equity of the LLC to family members or friends, and you can squeeze the value of those assets. So let's say they go to $50 million, whatever they are, Bitcoin, ETH, XRP, XLM, HBAR, they go to 50 mil, okay? Which would be great. Everybody would be happy about that. But now you've got way more than you need to be able to, move it out of your taxable estate and gift it into the trust if you wanted to do so. So with that, you can get a valuation done on the LLC that your assets are in, that you moved into. And, let's say you gift 2 to 5% to friends and family that you want to take care of anyway. And now the 409 valuation that you get done on the LLC, is probably worth 30% less than what it would have been prior to. So even though the assets are still worth 50 million, the LLC and the equity itself that owns the assets are now only worth 35. Now we can gift a huge portion of your assets out of your estate. You're left with 7 million in the LLC, and the rest of it was moved into the trust, right? So just a lot of benefits and utility, flexibility, and benefit for setting up an LLC for digital assets. Positions you extremely well for the other side of price appreciation. Business accounts are a lot less likely to get frozen versus personal accounts when you go to take profit. Just lots of benefits on the other side of it. And that is one thing that we do require if you work Digital Wealth Partners to manage your assets, is that they are held in an LLC and that they are north of $500,000 in current value, or you have at least 100,000 XRP is the minimum that we work with people there. Let's see. Taylor says, "Hey Jake, got my attention. Excited for Doppler FI. Expecting some really cool liquid staking opportunities there, backed by Ripple. Formerly Lotus, launches this week. Also, Grayscale announced XLM fund. Very cool. I'll definitely be taking a look at that. It's not something that's been on my radar, but I do appreciate you pointing it out to me. Doppler fund. We get a couple more super chats here. We got the Clit Destroyer 420. Put on your tinfoil hat, Mr. Claver. He says, are we being lied to about how much wealth, assets, and debt we truly have? If so, will it move into these assets? The numbers that the government is giving you are definitely wrong. I can say that knowing so. However, we have enough assets, right? So we've got enough gold. We have other things to be able to back things and shore things up, far more than people realize. It's not the gold that you think is in Fort Knox, I'll tell you that. It is different gold, but gold nonetheless. And yeah, I think they will move them on chain. I think our corporate treasury is going to become put on chain so that people can see what transactions and where the money's going. If you are paying taxes, where that's being allocated. I think that's the whole point of Doge, which is cool. Excited for the audit and Ron Paul to get to audit the IRS. It's gonna be wild. Anyway, yeah, I think the government's definitely been lying to us for a long time. But I do think that everything will end up on chain and tokenized. I just think it's going to take some time, probably at least another 5 years before that really plays out. got another one here from Hunter. He says, read XRP main targets might be the derivatives market more so than cross-border payments. What's your thoughts on this? Will it take longer for derivatives market? Is that a longer process? Yes and yes. So if you go back and look at, and I heard Brad speak at CoinAlts in 2023. It was there when he gave the keynote with Jack McDonald prior to PolySign and the acquisition and stablecoin and all the stuff that's happened over the last year. He talked about, when he came to Ripple in 2014 from Yahoo after he had the short stint in there where he was driving Uber. They had 3 initiatives at the time. One was Global ID. One was Codius, which is a smart contract, DApp creation platform, primarily utilized and focused on the derivatives market, and then cross-border payments and settlements with their payment, product. And they chose to focus on the payment product and forego the other 2, but I really don't think they are foregoing the other 2. I think Codius is still well and alive. If you want to go to codius.io, you can check it out. It's in beta. And I do think that they are going to, it's been separated from Ripple, and so has Global ID. But I do think it will be utilizing XRP to settle the derivatives market, which is quadrillions of dollars, somewhere between $2 and $4 quadrillion. And I do think that is their main focus: financial products, RWAs, or real world assets, tokenization, and actual applications for the technology and financial markets. I do think that's where Ripple will end up, and maybe cross-border payments. I think Hyperledger probably takes anything less than $10,000, and I think XRP will take anything over $10,000. High value payments between institutions, and then peer-to-peer or merchant payments will be via Hyperledger and XLM. This David Wilkinson says, is 76,000 XRP good? Don't tell people how much XRP you have, brother. Maybe you're just asking a random question. I don't know what your long-term goals are. I don't know how much you're going to sell, at what price points. I don't know. There's so many things that are kind of ambiguous about that question. Most people that ask a certain number or how much XRP to be a millionaire or those things, I would challenge you to say that that's probably the wrong question. I would start to ask, what is my number to be financially free? And my definition of financially free, I've talked about this before, is passive income that pays you twice the amount of your dream expenses every single month. Okay. So for me, that's, about $50,000 would be like my dream lifestyle. If I was making $600,000 a year, living pretty good, I could fly private, once a quarter, house and cars. And, I'm not super flashy. I just want to live a nice life. And I'd be able to give to charitable contributions and do other stuff and participate with my kid and do other things. So twice that amount would be $100,000 a month or $1.2 million a year in passive income. So, I'm a little bit younger, could probably be a little bit riskier with those investments. So we'll call it 10% returns. So I need about $12 million parked somewhere earning 10% per year in order for me to technically, in my mind, be financially free. And that number could be way different for you. You could be like, I only need 10 grand a month, man. So $20,000, $240,000 a year, 10%, so 2.4 million or 2.5 million parked somewhere earning 10%. Maybe you're a little less risky than me. Maybe you're, a little more risk averse. So it's got to be 5% in U.S. Treasuries. So you're going to need, $5 million parked in U.S. Treasuries to earn, $250,000 a year. Again, everybody's number is different. I would challenge you to think through things that way and then work that back to XRP. So let's go ahead and try that, right? So let's say we think XRP is going to $10. You don't think it's going to 100. You don't think it's going to 1,000 like I and many others do. You're going to be conservative. You're going to call it $10, okay? Which is, I think, extremely likely during this cycle. Almost everyone agrees it's going to at least $10. So for you to have $5 million at $10, you need 500,000 tokens. Well, that's a lot more than 76, right? But let's say you think it's going to $100. Well, now your 76,000 tokens is 7.6 million. more than enough to, put you in a position to be earning a very good living for most people off of passive income in that capacity. So again, I would just challenge you to play with the numbers and think back in the manner that I just discussed about, your financial freedom number, and not necessarily point to like, is this much XRP good or bad? I think that that's a very dependent number on where you think price is going, and then your lifestyle that you want to live and the cost of that. Go ahead and hop over here to YouTube and answer some more of these super chats. We got Wild Bill. He says, I packed my XRP bags at 50 cents. Let's go, Wild Bill. Why can't I bring myself to DCA more at these prices, even though I believe it will moon? What's the psychology there? I'd think about it this way, Wild Bill. If I bought a bunch of Bitcoin at 50 cents, would I still be a buyer of Bitcoin at $3 or $2.50? Yeah. Yeah. If I thought it was going to 1,000, I'd buy it on the way up. I will buy XRP up to $50 a piece, personally. If you're talking to Michael Saylor, he'll buy Bitcoin up to $500,000 a piece because he thinks it's going to 1 million. Right? So it's about upside and where you think price is headed. If you have a really good bag, if you packed your bags at that price, and you think that there's something with more upside now that XRP is appreciated, go start packing your bag for that. Maybe that's HBAR, maybe it's XLM, maybe it's VeChain. I don't know. It could be whatever you think it is. But for me, I still think there's more ROI in XRP than basically anything else in the market right now. And that's, again, just my opinion, just one guy on the internet, not financial advice. I don't own anything else. I'm still buying, even at the prices we are here. It does say XRP. So, got this from XRP Cafe at, where were we? Rare Evo. They were there, which was cool. Anyway, yeah, I'm still a buyer at $2.50 all day long, but that's because I think it's going to thousands of dollars a piece, tens of thousands of dollars a piece, hundreds of thousands of dollars a piece over the next 10 years. So you do you. It's never wrong to be, done buying and allocating resources other places. I would just do a cost analysis and figure out, which is better for yourself. A bunch of people here in the chat. Appreciate you guys hanging out tonight. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, share this with somebody else. I don't say that enough. Over here on TikTok, do the same. If you think this is good. This person's asked about Proppy. I like Proppy. I think that they have a really good product. I met their president last year, the CEO at Consensus. She's super sharp lady. They're in California. I think she's in the Bay Area. Anyway, they're able to, exchange tokenized properties inside of a 1031 exchange in their marketplace, partnered with Ripple and the XRPL on the back end. I like Proppy. I just think it's going to take a long time for you to get the title companies and the courthouses and everybody else to get on board with moving those components of real estate on chain. I think there's going to have to be some subsidization by the government to get them to push that along. So I think they're early, I guess is what I'm trying to say, but I am bullish on it. We got Rev Supercars. They say, have you heard anything about Codius and if it's still something that's being developed for XRP, or is there another replacement? I don't know that you could replace Codius. I can't show my screen here. I am human. Codius.io. I'm not installing this. Weird. Well, I'd go. Used to be Codius.io. I don't know what it is now, but there's a website out there that's Codius. Maybe it's Codius.com. Go to Codius.net. It's a green and like circle looking symbol. They definitely didn't go anywhere, and it is definitely going to be used for the derivatives market, and I'm excited to see that. I think it'll be in 2026 when that comes about. Appreciate you on the super chat. We got Michael McDaniel. He says, "Hey Jake, appreciate all the value you provide." Thank you, brother. Appreciate you taking out the time to hang out with us on a Monday night. Can you talk about the length/interest terms for PPLI, and also lowering from $5 million to $1 million threshold? Absolutely. So I'm assuming you're talking about borrowing against it because you said length and interest terms of PPLI. So PPLI is private placement life insurance. To be able to borrow against the policy, you can't fund it all at once. If you do, you're going to create a modified endowment contract, and it's going to create an inability for you to borrow against it over your lifetime. If you just want to set it up for your children, cool, and pass the assets to them, they grow tax-free inside there, but you won't be able to borrow lines of credit or cash against it. So normally we see it, in a 5-pay or 6-pay. Over 5 or 6 years to be able to fund the policy correctly. You can often get, the first 2 payments in with the first 90 days. So you can do like one retro and then the first one for this year, 90 days later. So that gets the cash value up to about 2/5 of what it would normally be. So let's say it's a $5 million policy, because that's the minimum. You could get $2 million in there within the first year, first 90 days to be able to borrow against that. Terms and length of the terms. So you're borrowing against your own cash value, right? It just depends on what the assets are, the underwriting, and a lot of that. Also, your health matters in some of that as well for establishing the policy. But when it comes to borrowing against it, we're seeing prime plus 1 or 2 in most circumstances. So somewhere between 6-7%, pretty reasonable most of the time. To be able to borrow against your private placement life insurance policy. And again, up to 90% LTV in most circumstances. There are some qualifications when it comes to PPLI for the diversification that's required within the policy. So a lot of these ETFs and trusts for XRP, and now that we have the depository receipt for your XRP that we announced earlier this week and on Friday last week, I don't know if you saw that post by Eleanor Terrett. That provides another derivative of XRP to be able to meet the diversification standards within that policy, which is super cool. And so the policies, the length of payback can be pretty long, like years. Just again, there's, depends on the lender and who you're working with. So pretty favorable terms. You can refinance it. The way that we're able to move it down from 5 million to 1 million is we're working on an IDF, or an insurance direct fund. We have a lot of things established for that already, and we're looking to come to market with that here in 2025 to be able to allow other people that are looking for exposure to digital assets to participate in that fund inside their PPLI policy, which is managed by a regulated RIA here in the U.S., which is Digital Wealth Partners, and inside the fund that we've spun up over there. So there's a lot that goes into that. It's not like it's just an easy wave your wand and put it together. We put a lot of work into what we currently have and the partners that we've curated relationships with to be able to afford people the opportunity to participate in the PPLI. And I'm excited to be able to provide that to people on the other side of price appreciation, because I think that's going to be one of the go-to tools that people use to be able to mitigate taxes, structure their estate, and make sure that they're increasing their net worth and passing it on to their legacy or the beneficiaries over time. We've got people say long-term hold. Absolutely. Why is XRP valuable? Like, what value do they bring? So XRP is not a they. So just to delineate between most people, and I get this, Ripple was gifted XRP, and so people misconstrue that Ripple owns XRP and manages the network. They do not. They run 3 validators on the network. There's over 250 validators on the network, many of which are run by institutions, agencies, and enterprises, and then also universities like MIT and many more, Stanford, Yale. So they just run 3 of those validators on the network. They do get to vote. They're a couple of, I think they're 2 of the 35 people that vote on the network. but they need an 80% consensus to actually pass or affect any changes. They do propose a lot of amendments on the XRPL. So why is XRP valuable? It is the native asset to be able to move value on the XRPL, which is a neutral, decentralized, immutable blockchain that enterprises, banks, and institutions will utilize to settle payments in the very near future for multiple applications, including SWIFT or Nostro Vostro accounts, which I think will actually end up being removed because of the availability of XRP to be able to settle those transactions. The back end of the stock market, I think, will happen here in 2025, which will be extremely significant for price appreciation of XRP. You've got FX and commodities, real estate, CBDCs, private stable coins. All of that's going to be the cheapest and easiest to transact over the XRPL at scale as far as liquidity goes and interoperability between those assets through the decentralized exchange that's inherent to the network. You've got digital identity that's native to the network. You've got liquidity pools that are being proposed. You've got an automated market maker where you can put your assets to work in a way where you gain value very differently than the majority of other ecosystems or automated market makers that have been created. You've got other DeFi applications that are coming to the network through side chains and smart contracts, through Zahao, Hooks, and the EVM. Side chains, there's, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. I've spent a lot of time reviewing all this stuff and troubleshooting it and trying to figure out how I was wrong. And I just became more and more convicted. I learned something new almost every single day about the XRPL and why it's going to be valuable. So hopefully that provides you some clarity around that. And again, if you get value from this, please like, subscribe, press that notification bell. We do go live every Monday and Wednesday night. We're not going to be live this Wednesday, though. So we are going to wish you guys a happy Valentine's Day this Friday. Hopefully you and your loved one will have a good time. Be safe out there. I'm sure that if you, and this is your wake-up call, if you're like me and you wait to the last minute to book stuff, go ahead and do it now on a Monday before you can't get a table or buy a gift or flowers or any of that stuff. So go ahead and knock that out. Whether you are a male or female, for your significant other, go ahead and take care of them. I know there's a lot of people that feel like this is a made-up bullshit holiday, but people do want to know that you love them and care about them. And some people's love language is gifts. So, take care of the person that you love, and hopefully they'll do the same for you. Care Bear says, hey Jake, do inherited IRAs, along with digital assets, qualify for your company's minimum portfolio requirements? It would depend on the value of that IRA, but it can be, put together with the rest of your digital assets and meet the qualification. We need somewhere north of 100,000 XRP or north of 400,000 on the low end for total portfolio value, including the IRA and your traditional non-qualified assets. So if you do meet those minimums, you can just go to digitalwealthpartners.net, go over there to the contact us form, and fill that out, and our advisors will reach out to you and let you know what the next steps are to be able to work with us and get your assets over. And we would love to work with you if you do meet those qualifications. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. We've got another one here from 787 Blazer. They say, at this rate, Doge is uncovering fraud, and it's insane. I don't see how the IRS survives through this year. Your thoughts? I don't either. Look, I'm just like everybody else. I want the tax code to completely go away. I think it's irrational. I think it's crazy. I think that people will put up loopholes and crazy stuff for them to be able, for the wealthy people to be able to mitigate taxes while the rest of us get screwed. Okay. I just play the same game as them. I've just found CPAs that are brilliant. They understand the tax code and they're able to help people. And that's what we're looking to provide. I play the game the way it's written, and whatever rules and how they go is how I'm going to play the game. So, if they do remove the IRS and we move to flat taxes and they make, American-based cryptos no capital gains, I would absolutely love that. Does that change our business model at all? No, not in the least. You're still going to want to protect yourself and set up your estate. The main focus for the majority of the professionals we work with is to mitigate taxes. You're still going to want to be able to borrow against your assets as they appreciate in value over time. That's still going to be the best way to maintain exposure to them, without selling them. I think that, no capital gains is going to encourage a lot of retail and people that may not be as educated to sell their digital assets, which is what I think they want you to do. It is going to drive innovation and adoption here in the US in ways that I don't think people understand currently. I do think it's going to make the US a hotbed for crypto innovation and companies here, which I think is exciting. But again, if they do remove the IRS, which would be fantastic, by the way, I think tariffs are going to be a much bigger play for U.S. income than most people realize. I said this person, let's play, they fold the IRS as a Ponzi. It really is. Social Security is a Ponzi. There's tons of stuff that's been orchestrated over the last 100 years since 1913 when the Federal Reserve was formed, that I think, is going to come to light for the public to really understand what's been going on, which is great. Just be aware that there's going to be another narrative that comes along, and there's going to be trade-offs for what comes in, right? So if there's, a Corporate Transparency Act or a Treasury Transparency Act where they move all this stuff on blockchain, they're going to be able to see all your transactions too. There's going to be a backdoor. Privatized stable coins are going to have the ability to be audited by the U.S. government. It's going to be far easier to see all of your transactions, just like the government. So good and bad, right? You can't have it all. You can't have it all. Can't have it both ways. I know people want it both ways, but a lot of the time that's just how things work. Is if you want to hold other people accountable, you're going to have to be held accountable also. If you want radical responsibility, which I think is great, and a lot of people in crypto do have that, you're going to give up, insurance. You're going to give up counterparty risk. You're going to give up liability. Just different things, right? There's trade-offs for everything. So if they remove the IRS, it's likely that there's going to be something else that takes its place, whether that's tariffs or other things. Maybe there's UBI, which good and bad, on that side of things. We'll just have to see. I do think to your point, though, I think there's going to be a ton of changes here under Trump's administration over the next 4 years. And a lot of it people have been wanting, but I don't know that they know all the costs that are going to come along with it. We have Rev Supercar says, have you heard anything about Codius? Oh, he's already asked this earlier, and I said yes. It's probably me scrolling the wrong direction here in the chat. We've got, let me see if I've got any more. Oh, wow. Here are a couple more super chats. OC JARIES. Octavius? Harris? Butchering it. Sorry. Appreciate you for the super chat. They say, can I put funds in my HVEC cash value life insurance from my LLC for tax-free? It's through Mass Mutual. Is that the same as PPLI policy? No. PPLI is for extremely high net worth individuals. It's a very different type of policy than a HVEC cash value life insurance. So in the U.S. here, they allow for financial products and insurance to be mixed, which is very interesting. When I was younger, I sold insurance and I thought it was stupid. I was like, who's going to buy this crap? Because I understood what they were actually doing. When it's used in an infinite banking concept and they're not overfunded and turned into a mech and you walk the line on stuff like that, it can be a very effective tool. It's not the end all be all, but it's definitely a tool. I don't know if that's a health insurance policy, HVEC. I'd have to look that up. Very familiar with IULs and universal index life and whole life. This isn't a life insurance policy that I'm familiar with, but I'm sure Carl, who's our main insurance guy, would be, and he could tell you. You won't be able to put your you won't be able to fund that type of insurance policy. I can guarantee you this. In kind, you won't be able to move your digital assets in there. You might be able to sell those digital assets and fund the policy that way. Where we have a way you can fund the policy in kind in PPLI, and that's one of the main benefits for that policy over anything else is you don't lose exposure to the asset or have to deal with the capital gains or potential loss if you weren't able to buy it back inside the policy. James Hall, thank you for the super chat, brother. He says, my XRP bags are packed. That's what I'm talking about. If price floats here for a while, I may be able to stack a little more, but I happen to have the inside info that there are ways my bag can grow itself, but I'm running into walls trying to get accredited. So we do have the ability to be able to generate returns on XRP at Digital Wealth Partners. In kind and in cash for those that want that opportunity. If you are accredited and you do have more than 100,000 XRP, we can definitely help you, do that in a extremely risk mitigated way. They're in inside institutional custody with the institutional partners that we have, which is super cool. Again, brother, I just get you a CPA or a lawyer that'll write you an accreditation letter based on your current assets. I think that based on what we had the discussion on the in Carbon 2, so they're in the mastermind. We haven't even talked about the mastermind tonight. We talked about it, and you do meet the accredited status. So I would just have a conversation with I think we introduced you to Byron. Byron's a CPA. He should be able to write you an accreditation letter, and you should be able to use that to be able to participate. On that topic, I hadn't even talked about it tonight, but if you guys do want to go check out the Beyond Broke Mastermind, we got about 1,400 people in there, which I can't believe. Just super blessed and grateful for all the fantastic individuals that are part of that community. You can go to beyondbroke.com and put in the code Beyond Broke, all capitalized. It's up here at the top. The number 1 and then MO, like Mary Oscar or month. Get you 1 month free there in the group. You can do Carbon 1 or Social. Just check it out. See if it's for you. A lot of people there that hold a significant allocation, whatever that means to them, for digital assets and have aligned goals and objectives, want to learn and become more financially educated, access to business resources and other people to do private deals with. I'm super proud of that community, and I'm super excited for what it's going to be on the other side of price appreciation. I don't think people realize how wealthy they're going to be when things take off here, and how much opportunity is going to be in cohorts of people like that group in particular. Continue to drive more and more good people to the group every single day that have opportunities and share knowledge there. We've got a deal this week on how to increase your personal credit and your business credit. Somebody coming in to talk about that. Mandy's asked about what about XLM? Yeah, XLM is great. Hyperledger is fantastic. The majority of the retail-facing institutions and merchant service providers that we've talked to, Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, a lot of them have issued their peer-to-peer payment or retail-facing CBDC, won't be a CBDC, but a privatized stablecoin on Hyperledger using Hyperledger BOSU. I think that there's going to be a ton of use there for payments that are less than $10,000. I think there's going to be a lot of applications for peer-to-peer lending. You're already seeing, merchant services like Stronghold and trading applications like Velo being built on Hyperledger. I think that that's just going to continue with the Soroban smart contracts that are native to that network. So super bullish on XLM. I don't think it's ever going to go over $1,000. Though that's my price prediction over the long term for that token because of the tokenomics and the decimal places. So XRP to 1,000 by the end of the year. That's my guess. Again, that's there's some pre-qualifiers there. You've got Tether has to implode on itself. This person says Blake Griffin. I'll take the compliment, brother. Appreciate you. Um, yeah, you need the reverse carry trade to unwind. You need stablecoin regulation. You need Tether to get sanctioned or implode on itself. Bitcoin needs, and its dominance needs to fall. There's a lot of things that have to transpire for the back end of the stock market to need to be able to be settled real time, and that's what would cause XRP to be pushed to $1,000 a piece through the ETFs and the liquidity that would be driven in there. If you want to go back and check out the YouTube channel, we've got lots and lots of videos over there, and that's one of the things I put out last year in March was the domino theory, which is what I just discussed for price, to go to $1,000. That's a lot for $1,000 realistic. Yeah, I think all those dominoes are set up there, Marshall. We'll see. I'll either be right or I'm wrong, but that's my best guess. I don't think I'm the smartest guy in the world, but I think, based on the conversations and the people that I've met with and everything that I've been able to uncover, that is a realistic price prediction for 2025 here. Joseph Jones says, Jake, absolutely love the mastermind. Glad to hear that, brother. See, that's what I'm talking about. We do these in real life events, and we give out these coffee cups for everybody that attends those. So excited to see you guys in Oklahoma City on the 20th of this month, and we'll bring some of those up there with us. He says, I encourage all the XRP holders to join. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. I want to ask if you will run another deal for the 50K XRP to join custody. I'm very anxious to get my assets under custody in your system. Thank you. And yeah, we may pull it back down again, maybe here at the end of February. You're not the only person that's asked that, so we may go ahead and walk it back just one more time for people that are new to the community or people here, that are watching this tonight. If you do want your assets in institutional custody, you want the ability to borrow against them, you want to be able to earn yield or returns, excuse me, my compliance officer is going to slap my hand on the assets. We probably will walk it back one more time to 50,000 XRP before we leave it at, at the 100,000 or at the $400,000 mark. So I'll talk to my team about it. I got my hand slapped every time I've run a special through the mastermind to help people out. My compliance officer is like, call me, tell me what's going to happen before we do this. So I will have to clear that with them, but we'll look at the end of February here, Joseph, and excited to be able to work with you. And thank you again for the kind words about the mastermind, and excited to have you in there. We got Black 50. They say, what book can we buy to learn more about PPLI? It's a good question. The majority of the education that I've got from that's been from Brandon Avergon, who is our main advisor for private placement life insurance. I'm sure you could just Google books on, let's take a look here. Take a little gander. Books on PPLI. Wow, these are expensive. Let's see. Wiley says the PPLI solution, delivering wealth accumulation, 77 euros. The PPLI solution. Yeah, this would be something that looks pretty robust in its education. It's here on wiley.com. The PPLI solution, delivering wealth accumulation, tax efficiency, and asset protection through private placement life insurance. That would be my recommendation, sir. Honest Aim, thank you for the super chat. Hope you and your wife are well. He says, Jake, joining late, so I just want to say thanks for the leadership and continue to create new products and services. I'll watch the replay later. By the way, swapping our XLM to XRP today. I think it's the first to go up. I can't give you financial advice, but I think that's a great choice there, brother. Hope you guys are well. Looking forward to see y'all at the next event. Probably hang out for another 20 minutes here, and then we'll shut it down tonight. We've got Hunter. He says, are you still on the belief that XRP will be 3 to 4 digits by end of year, and why? Again, it's going to require certain circumstances to play out and catalysts to happen. What's up, brother? Appreciate you. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I do think it'll happen here in this year. I think it'll happen sooner than later. And the main reason for that is we've seen multiple people file the ETFs with the CBOE, and it's, after that happens, they have 45 days to approve or deny those ETFs. I mean, they could deny them, I guess, if the appeal, and the SEC doesn't want to, but I think that'd be a really bad look under the new administration. They'd probably get a slap on the wrist from Trump. I think he wants to be an advocate for crypto. Like I said, we've already seen 60 ETFs filed for this year in 2025. We're February 10th as of today. I think you're just going to see an onslaught of financial products and structured products around digital assets here in 2025. So with that, there'll be mountains of liquidity that move into these digital assets, especially if we got stablecoin regulation. The reverse carry trade, there's a lot of things all looking like it's going to transpire here, potentially even in Q1 of 2025. I think that's very likely that in Q1 we're going to see substantial movement on the price of XRP to the upside. And when it starts going, I think people are going to have a hard time reconciling how fast it moves. So to answer your question, yes, and those are the reasons. A couple more super chats. We got Sona. They say, do you believe in the $10,000 XRP? And do you think someone needs at least 6 figures of XRP to become financially free? So I kind of answered this quasi a little bit earlier in my belief around financial freedom and what that is and how to work backward to the amount of XRP that you would need. If you think that XRP is going to go to $10,000, you'd only need 100 XRP to be a millionaire, which I do think will happen. I don't think it's going to be this year, though. I think you're going to have to wait a couple years for $10,000 XRP. 2026, 2027, I think, is a realistic time frame for the derivatives market to come on chain. And for them to utilize Codius and for those, quadrillions of dollars to be settled over the XRPL to be able to drive it to that price. But yeah, David Schwartz himself has said that XRP is meant to operate at $10,000, high, very high, stable value. Yeah, this person says that 45 days. I thought they seen 240 days for approval. So the CBOE that was filed 5 days ago. For 4 or 5 of the ETFs requires that it's approved within 45 days. Yeah, 6 figures, you only need 100 XRP if you're going to wait till $1 million or $10,000. The majority of our clients have 6 figures in XRP, 6 figures of XRP. So again, the minimum that we currently have at this time is at least 100,000 XRP to work with us, but that will come down over time. There'll be a point in the future, so we'll probably lower it to 1.1 million over $10,000, and then or over $10 on XRP. $10,000. Geez, it's late. I need a nap. Anyway, at some point we will raise the minimum to work with us to $20 million in current value. Because we are a multifamily office. We've done a lot of proactive work with people in the XRP community to make sure that they were taken care of. And I do think that there will be a lot of people that, meet those numbers. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised how many people meet those numbers. That would be 2,000 XRP at $10,000 a piece to be $20 million. 3 years from now, I think there's going to be a ton of people that meet that. I say a ton. There's probably only, 100,000 people globally that have more than that amount of XRP currently. And I think the majority, probably half of those people, will sell their XRP off over the next couple of years. Many of them will go broke. Many of them will be lottery winners. I'm hopeful that the services and the education that we've provided and will continue to provide will help mitigate some of that. Anyway. But I'm rambling on here. I thank you for your question, and I do think it's going to those prices over the long term, and you would need far less XRP than that to be financially free, depending on how much money you need. We got Dr. Denise. How's it going? How soon will HBAR and XLM be available under custody in your system? XLM Q1, HBAR early Q2 is likely what it's going to be. So like XLM in March and HBAR in April. Do you have a trust recommendation for self-directed crypto IRAs, or will digital assets have one? AJ Rocks FY. Good to know. We can do self-directed IRAs through Digital Wealth Partners. Happy to work with you in that capacity. If you want to fund one, or if you want to move one over from another provider, we can do all of that. Any type of derivative or structured product, we will service there at Digital Wealth Partners and be able to provide for our clients. So happy to work with you if that's something you have, and look forward to working with you on HBAR and XLM as those become available in the next couple of months. Hey, it made it to the bottom here. Very cool. We're going to go over here to TikTok and we'll run a few things down. Star Killer Jimmy says XRP scam, XR scam. You know, I can see why people think that, to be honest with you. Like, there's a narrative out there that Ripple controls all the XRP, and just on the surface, if they controlled half the supply, and you know that you didn't look into it, there's a lot of reasons why it might look suspicious. I could get all that, and I asked a lot of those questions. You know, I was like, could this be controlled? Could somebody else replicate it? Could there be on and on and on? And really, I was able to justify and go through all those questions and kind of quell all those concerns over time. So again, if you actually want to ask questions and not just make accusations over here, I'm happy to answer them in a really respectful and educated format. We've got, since Brad says he doesn't create XRP, do you think that will affect XRP price? No. Brad didn't create XRP. He didn't show up till later. Arthur Brito, David Schwartz, and a few others were who created XNS, is what it was at the time when they minted the first 100 billion XRP, which they then gifted to Ripple from OpenCoin, which they then rebranded to Ripples. And then after the white paper from the IMF that talked about an exchange rate peg in 2014, which they abbreviated XRP, Ripple rebranded Ripples to XRP. So Brad did not create XRP. He's not the crypto czar. He's potentially on the crypto committee. He would have to step down in his position as CEO of Ripple in order to participate in that capacity. No, it's not going to matter that Brad didn't create XRP. It's interesting to me that people have these narratives that are out there. Got a couple more super chats over here before we wrap it up tonight. We got John White is. John White is. He says, Jake, thanks for everything. Thank you for being here, brother. Appreciate you taking time out on a Monday night to listen. He says, I don't have a question. All right. But just want to piggyback on Joseph's chat and say, I love you long time. And if you run the 50K XRP custody one more time. Okay, well, it's good to know, John. Appreciate the super chat. And again, point taken. We'll go ahead and chalk that one up also. And again, probably here at the end of February, we'll pull it back one more time for you guys. And hopefully be able to, again, hopefully we have XLM at that point, maybe. And more people will be able to qualify and make it in. Izzy P says, hola, what's going on, senor? He says, XDC and HBAR joining forces for the AUDD is fantastic. XDC expanding is playing field. It's playing field. Your thoughts, please. Also love Beyond Broke Mastermind. Awesome, brother. Glad to see you and happy to have you in there. Living Legacy is posted. The code here, if you guys want to go check out the mastermind, it is beyondbroke.com. If you want to check out, the mastermind and get a free month, it is Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO, get you a free month there in the group. And Living Legacy or Mike will help you out when you join. You'll get an email from him. Make sure you I'm going to put this out here publicly. Please, 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 please. If somebody messages you on Discord, it's not me. I don't message you on Discord. I will never message you on Discord. If you message me on Discord, I will reply to you, but that's the only time I interact with people on that platform. It's better if you just email me. I'm not going to reach out to you. And if I do, I'm definitely not going to ask you to send your XRP or anything else to Bitflix, okay? That is a scam. Do not do it. Don't do it. It's a scam. Just letting you guys know. We work with Anchorage, Digital Wealth Partners, nothing to do with that other platform. But anyway, yeah, would love to have you guys there in the mastermind. We do town halls every Saturday and Monday. run down a lot of the things we have here, plus a bunch of extra stuff that I don't share publicly. So, and we do the private deals there in the group that you're not going to get access to anywhere else. Even if you're not accredited, you can participate in those. So this person, again, just kind of go back here to Izzy's deal. We've got AUDD. Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of these chains start to partner with one another and merge in certain capacities to be able to provide value in certain ecosystems and circumstances. XDC, they're going to file for an office here in the U.S. to try to be a U.S.-based crypto company. Atul and Ritesh are not dumb guys. They're sharp. Excited to see them hopefully be able to pull that off, and for XDC to get brought over here to the U.S. And away from Dubai. So, hopefully we'll have them and a bunch of other people at our event here in April for family offices in Dallas, and excited to continue to bring value to you guys there in the mastermind through a lot of the things that we have going on. Jason Montgomery, says, what is the price structure for institutional custody? It's a fantastic question. So we do have an onboarding fee of $1,000. You do need to have a couple of requirements met in order to work with us. One, the assets have to be held inside of an entity, so an LLC or a trust, and their current value, again, you need at least 100,000 XRP at the current time, or at least $500,000 in nominal value of total assets. The fee structure beyond that is we have an AUM fee. We are a licensed RIA, a registered investment advisor under the SEC. We're one of two in the U.S. that has over $100 million worth of assets under custody that deals with just digital assets. So if it's less than 5 million that you're working with us on, we charge 2% on the AUM fee. If it's more than 5 million but less than 10 million, it's 50 basis points, which is 0.5%. And anything north of 10 million is only 40 basis points. So that's $40,000 if we're managing $10 million in value. And we try to do everything we can to make sure that we're paying for ourselves. We have ways that we can earn yield, returns, slap my hand, returns on your assets. We're working on ways for yield. We have the ability to borrow against, so provide you lines of credit against your assets at very reasonable interest rates in comparison to some of the competitors out there, with very little risk of loss in comparison to a lot of the DeFi protocols and other options that exist in the market. We provide financial advice on your total estate and your investments. So if you've got real estate, private equity, normal equities, treasuries, bonds, commodities, digital assets, all the above, work with you on everything. Do some estate structuring and other stuff as well. So yeah, happy to provide all of that for the cost there. And there are additional costs for attorney's fees and other things if we set stuff up. But if it's already established, happy to just provide the advisory around that for the cost. And then if we generate returns, so there's one more caveat here on performance fees. We have an 8% hurdle rate with a high water mark of wherever your assets were on December 31st last year, or whenever you bring them to us. We don't take any upside in the assets you bring to us. So that's something I've been super adamant about. You made the investment in XRP or HBAR or whatever else. We're not entitled to any of that. We didn't make those investments. We only get compensated if we're able to help generate yield beyond the appreciation of the assets themselves. So if we, partner with institutional funds or other people to be able to generate returns on the assets, and we, generate in excess of another 8% aside from the upside in the assets themselves, then we go 80-20 on anything beyond that. Okay, but we have an 8% hurdle rate. There is no other RIA on the planet, period, that's going to give you 40 basis points on anything over 10 million and then an 8% hurdle on top of that. Like, that doesn't exist. We really don't make any money. Like, it's not profitable. It will be over the long term. That's my bet, and that's why I'm willing to fund it in the short term here and lose money. to be able to provide these services for people. Yeah, I'm not saying yield again. um, but yeah, I believe in this. I wanted this for myself. I've created this selfishly, and I want to be able to provide it to other people at a reasonable cost and value. So hopefully, that explains the fees to you, Jason. If you do have any further questions, or if anybody has any further questions about the fees associated with Digital Wealth Partners, custody, all the other stuff I just discussed, please email info@digitalwealthpartners.net, and we'd be happy to run it down for you. If you want my email, you're just going to email info@digitalfamilyoffice.io, and that comes to me, and my assistant will make sure that you get any questions there answered. A couple more super chats, and then we'll wrap it up for tonight. We've got Let's Go 101. They say, "Hi Jake, did I hear you are looking to work with Empire Accountants in Australia? I spoke with David Pham, and he mentioned you guys spoke." Yeah, it's been a while since I talked to those guys. Happy to work with them or reconvene on stuff if it's something they're interested in. I don't think we had like any type of affiliate agreement or anything we struck with them years ago. It's probably been 18 months ago when I talked to those guys. But again, happy to rehash that conversation if they're interested, and definitely work together if that's something of interest for them. Appreciate the super chat, by the way. He says, "Great explanation." Thank you, Jason. Appreciate you, brother. Again, happy to answer any questions that you have. With that, I am probably going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Thank you all for taking time out on your Monday night and listen to the AMA and asking fantastic questions. Again, if you want to join the mastermind, it's beyondbroke.com up here at the top. 1 month free is Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you a free month there in the group. If you do want to go ahead and set up an LLC for your digital assets and make sure that you're secured and set up for price appreciation, you just go to digitalfamilyoffice.io, and then you're going to put LLC form in the top corner search up there. It'll pull it down. Click on the link, and you can put in 50 off, 50 off OFF DAG, like Digital Ascension Group LLC, all capitalized. 50 off DAG LLC gets you 50% off. So $1,500 all in to get your LLC set up for your digital assets and make sure that you're positioned for price appreciation and to be able to mitigate taxes. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening, a wonderful week, and we will see y'all on the next one. Happy Valentine's.